account today because I'm on mobile.
Okay.
Is there an opportunity to, we would have to switch the whole thing, or does someone have Loom?
I can't record it using my iMac if it's okay.
Let's do that first then.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's make it work. All right, guys. So again, this guy's. Sorry, go ahead.
So that was some good negotiations. Let's make it work.
Let's make it work. Right. So guys, again, this is more interactive, right? So whatever I'm saying, if you have any questions, any objections to what I'm saying, these points, just to be clear, are not mine. I am copying my fairy. Okay.
John, do you want to just start, like not start from the beginning, but just recap what you were just saying, just so that we're back on track?
All right. So number 1 point on negotiating. Almost every agent considers themselves a good negotiator. However, most are not because they don't have good sales skills. So us who are, officially trained, professionally trained, know how to have good sales skills. Good sales skills come with asking questions, right? Just to recap that, okay? Okay. Selling is not telling. Selling is asking questions. And this also applies during negotiating, whether it's with your own client that you're acting on behalf of or the other agent. Okay? All right. Number 2, emotion and drama kill negotiating power. Control what you say to the client. Right? Control what you say to the client. Just to recap what we talked about. If the offer came in 10% below what you're listed at, don't go and say, guys, I know this is such a low offer. These guys are lowballers. I can't believe what they're trying to do to your property. No, you're listed right now currently at $559,000. The offer came in at $500,000. The deposit is 5%. The completion dates are November 30th. The subject removal dates are a week from today. Would you like to accept, counter, or decline? That's it. No stories. No stories. Now, we do have to be sensitive to the seller, and yet we don't want to make stories about the offer that just came in. Okay? Number 3 is tied into this one. Controlled emotions are an asset. Uncontrolled emotions are a liability. Don't bring your garbage in your head about what's going on today in your life to the deal. That has nothing to do with the seller. Right? If you woke up on the wrong side of the bed, oh my God, another low ball today. Screw it. I don't even want to work anymore. What do you think about this offer? Should we take it? Should we counter? No. I don't know. Right? Controlled emotions are an asset. Really keep your emotions between the lines, guys. And keep the lines real close. Emotions do not serve you in real estate. Okay? That's number 3. Am I going too fast? Any questions so far?
That's awesome, John. Really good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Man, we're good.
Anything to say, Simone, Pablo, anybody about this? Like keeping emotions between the lines. You guys have been through a down market for how many years?
5 years, I think. We subscribe to exactly what you were just saying. Every single negotiation, when we get an offer, I present it exactly like that. I say, well, we got an offer of this, no emotion in it. I say, we have 3 options. Number 1, we can accept this offer as written, and then we're done. And I present it like that. And you'd be surprised how many people just go, okay, let's just take it. I don't want to go back and forth. I don't want to do all this negotiating back. That's us that puts that in there, right? That we're the ones who do all this, like, I'm going to get you the most, right? Maybe they just want to sell it. Like, what is the seller's actual best interest? They just want to sell the property. They say we could accept it as is, or number 2, we could reject this offer, or number 3, we could reject the offer and present a counter offer, right? Which would you like to do? And it's amazing how many times they just it's put the ball in their court. Let them
exactly. That's such a good on the court example. Sorry, go ahead.
I would say as well, and I think you've already mentioned this, John, but the more attached you are to the deal or the outcome, the less likely you're going to be able to service your client and get them what you want, which also will get you what you want. So you gotta be able to walk away from the deal. It has nothing to do with you. It has to do with them.
Ooh, that is such a heavy point too, because you got that commission breath going on, right? Like you want this commission check. You're willing to do anything to get it done. This is one of our few points down the road here, but I'll get to number 4. Right? Thank you for your input. So remember, again, this is all tied in. You are not buying or selling the home. Us as agents, we're not buying or selling the home. Keep your emotions out of it. The transaction's not about you, us agents. It's about them, the buyer and seller. How can we serve them? So remember, it's about them. I'm going to repeat this again. It's not about us. It's not about our commission. It's about what their goals are. Buying the best home possible for their family and selling the home and getting to where they want to go. Okay? Number 5. Remember, you are not a part of the negotiations. You are not a part of the negotiations, so don't let your commission be dragged into it. Confession time. I've done this before. Okay? I've thrown in some commission just to get the deal done. Simone is shaking her head. Do share.
Well, when I
He never
negotiate,
does, but I do, and I do all the negotiating.
I can hear him negotiating on my listings, and he's reducing fees, and I want to go strangle him. But when I do negotiate, sometimes I'll negotiate when I take the listing, but I make it very clear that when I give on my commissions, and I only give like a teeny tiny amount to take the listing, and it's priced to sell, and I'm going to sell it, I give a little bit on the front end, but I make it very clear with them that the negotiation between us is done. So my commissions will never be brought up again. And I just say it very upfront. So now that I've given this, my commissions will not be a part of the negotiations when the deal is being negotiated. And they're like, okay. And then if they bring it up, I'm just going, remember, we already did this.
Yeah, I was going to say the nice thing about that is that when it does come to negotiating time, I just go, we already discounted the commissions. Now let's talk about the offer we've got in front of us. Do you want to accept it, or do you want to reject it, or do you want to counter?
Exactly. Boy, I do not want to be sitting in front of Simone during the negotiation table. There's no way. I would say I'll take it.
And I do say it with a smile. Okay, so big, bright, teethy smile. And the answer is, that's it. Got it? Right?
Thank you.
No, any other questions?
Okay. I'm going to take it. I'm going to take the offer. Okay. All right, number 6. This is what Pablo had covered already. Don't be afraid to ask them to accept the contract as is. How many times are we trying to be the hero? How many times, again, emotions come into play? Here's the offer. Here's the price, here's the deposit, here's the completion date. Okay, I would like to take it. How many times are you guys surprised that they just want to take it? We'll make up all these stories about how we want to get them the better contract. This is the contract that they want. Okay? All right. Number 7, both agents should have the same goal in mind. A signed contract. Now, find out if the goal's the same and ask all parties a lot of questions. Ask a lot of questions. How many times do we feel like we're antagonizing each other during negotiations? We're actually working towards the same goal, right? How many times are you like, oh, well, I did this and you did that and you guys haven't stepped back, so I'm not going to give in. No, let's step back and say, okay, what's the seller trying to achieve? What's the buyer trying to achieve? Let's work together to close the gap so we can both get paid. Fair enough? That's the conversation, and not going against each other. If we have a good negotiation and we have smooth sailing, after the transaction, we can also attract them to EXP. Okay? Just a side note. Okay. Number 8, keep your focus on what's best for your client and not to yourself and the commissions that you will earn. Again, commission breadth. You don't want to be focused on that. Okay? Number 9, when negotiating, look at look carefully at both sides of the transaction to get a better perspective. This creates, again, a win-win situation. Win-win, not win-lose, right? Don't sacrifice yourself, don't sacrifice your commissions in a big way. Everybody has to win, everybody has to feel good to get the contract done, okay? Now, in order to do that, you have to put yourself in their shoes. What are they trying to achieve? How come they're coming back at us this way, right? And you won't know unless you ask a lot of questions. Again, asking questions instead of telling the other side what to do. All right? Okay, number 10. This is the same thing, tied in. Refer back to the buyer or seller motivation, often during negotiating. Right? This is what it is. So the offer came in at 500,000. We're listed at 559,000. Well, John, no, it's too low. It's too low. Okay, well, no problem. But let me ask you this. Is the goal in getting to San Diego by December 1st still the goal, or has the time frame changed? And you'd be surprised by asking the question, they'll say, well, okay, yes, the goal is still the same. I guess we need to take the offer. Or the goal has changed. We're not in a rush anymore. And we can't make them wrong, but at least you'll know the motivation has changed, therefore the price is not negotiable as much anymore. Does that make sense, guys? Tie into motivation. Great. All right, number 11, keep your ego out of the transaction because all it does is create problem. How many times have you guys heard, John, I've been in real estate for 27 years. I've done this a lot, longer than you've been alive. Right? Keep your ego out of the transaction, guys. It's not about that. Like, it doesn't matter how many transactions. It's all about how do we get our clients the best possible contract so they're both happy and create a win-win situation. Again, keep your ego out of the transaction. Okay, number 12. Do your negotiating over the phone, guys. Don't spend your time running around to see everybody. Who's not using Authentisign right now to negotiate contracts? Oh, this is good. Wait, Pablo, you put your hand up? Are you muted again?
There, sorry, trying to figure out how to unmute. Yeah, I do things a little differently here because we verbally back and forth negotiate until we DocuSign or Authentisign at the end. So we don't have to do written counter offers here. Nothing's solid unless it's in writing, of course. So we just do a verbal back and forth until we get to the price and terms, and then yes, we sign it electronically. And but yeah, I'll go one step further. Like, stop texting your clients counter offers.
Right. So the point is, like, you're doing the right thing because you're only going verbally, right? Like, I hope you guys aren't driving to the seller's house or the buyer's house to get them, to want to see them, to present it in person. It's a waste of time. If you want high-level production, do not want to do that, okay? High-level efficiency, guys. Okay, great. All right. Oh, to take it a step further, who has staff right now? Assistant, full-time, part-time? Jack? Kaylin? No? You have assistant too? Okay, good. Who else? Who else has assistants? Mark? No? No assistant? Okay. If you guys can, try to delegate this and have your staff do it if possible. This is the difference between doing 50 deals and 80 deals. The difference between 100 and 175, guys. This is really it. You as a salesperson should be prospecting, going on appointments, and closing for signatures. That's it. Negotiating contracts, you can delegate it out. And it's better because you are then not emotionally attached to it. Your assistant is not emotionally attached to it. Here's what it is. Here's the price. Here's the offer. What would you like? That's it. Right? and only have them bring it to you if they cannot get it done. Does that make sense?
John, in Alberta, we can't have our assistants negotiate. That's part of our
They
government.
can if they're licensed. So
Yeah,
that's
only if they're
anywhere in
licensed.
Canada.
Got it, okay. Thank you for putting that in.
But for those of you who think that that's a crazy notion of having your contract, your negotiations on any offers be delegated, I can tell you Simone and I do exactly that. Simone will meet with sellers and she'll take listings. And as soon as an offer comes in, I take over. And 9 times out of 10, I've never met the seller. And I call them up. I go, hey, seller. And of course, Simone's already positioned me as the negotiator. So, hey, when a contract comes in, great news. Pablo's going to handle the contract because he's a great negotiator, quote unquote. And I call them up. I say, hey, we've never met, but I've got some great news. We've got an offer on your property. Would you like to accept it?
Counter or decline it. That's it.
It works really, really well. Like you can actually delegate negotiations pretty easily. It doesn't take much skill to negotiate a contract.
Yeah, guys, we're for those of you who have licensed assistants, we are not as important as we think we are. I'm going to say that again. We are not as important as we think we are. Okay, once you can let that thought go, your production will just skyrocket. Okay, and for those of you, Jack, go ahead.
Yeah, so question on that. So let's say if you list the property on and then you get an offer that comes in and then you feel like there's still room or the other agent told you that they can come up even more. In that case, when you meet the seller, I mean, you present it to them, what do you say to them? Do you tell them, do you encourage them to take it, encourage them to counter, or what would you say?
This is the offer that's presented right now. Here's the price.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Would you like to accept it as is, counter the offer, or reject it completely?
What if, as an agent, I mean, because we talked to the buyer agent, right, and then they give us a feeling that they can even come up a little more, but it's just their initial offer right now.
I just present the facts, Jack. Like I
Present the
say, here's the offer. And by the way, the buyer's agent told me they'd be able to move up on the price.
Okay.
Would you like to accept it as it's written, or would you like to reject it or counter with a higher offer? Counter offer.
So what if they say, what do you think?
Yeah, really, the truth is, it doesn't matter what I think. It's what's best for you.
Okay.
Right? And to set up expectations, I usually like to say something that's, it's not manipulative, but let's just say the buyer is willing to come up to $550,000. They're currently at $530,000. I'm not going to go tell the seller they're willing to come up at $550,000.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I don't even want to tell them that number, because if I go and tell them that number and then I go back to the buyer's agent and they'll say, oh, actually, you know what? We can only come up to $535,000 max.
Yeah.
You shot yourself in the foot again.
Yeah.
And just further on that, Jack, is that the buyers often do, or the seller does often want some advice. And, as their agent, we are giving them some advice. So if they say, well, I'd like to make a counter offer, what would you advise or what would you recommend? I'll always give them a recommendation that is a lot further than they may have thought. Because
yes.
I'm not saying let's come down $5,000 and let's just stick it to them or anything like that. I'd say, well, typically, they came in at 500 and we're at 569. Maybe we come down to 525, right? Let's shock the system a little bit and see if we can get it close, because they want to sell the house and we all want to get the house sold. The buyers want to buy the home. So they might say, well, can we come down to 535? Sure, let's do 535. I just follow their instructions.
Yeah. Hey, Jack, it's Atish. So just a quick comment. One would be, you want to be able to review your CMA before you're going in to have the conversation, because it might give you some fact to go by, which is, listen, we know in this particular price point, this is what these homes are selling for, price per square foot. So that's probably one. It takes that emotion out. The other thing that I find in our market now is I tell people, I said, this is sometimes the first round of negotiation. Probably have another round later once we've got inspection and stuff done, right? And that helps them to get into the headspace of, okay, this is fine, and this is maybe not our bottom dollar, I just did a place yesterday, and we set the expectation properly, and it turned out at the end, the buyers just said, listen, there's a bunch of different things that need to be handled on this house. We'll eat that if you can just fix the sump pump for us, which was $100. All right, but that's another part of staging people and saying, listen, there's going to be multiple elements or multiple times that we're going to negotiate on this. So hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah, and just was talking to Steve Yu last night. He's not on the call today, but he had a deal fall apart and just devastated, and the seller is devastated as well. So especially in this market, what we're going through is when we accept a contract, I always tell the seller, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, congratulations on the accepted offer. Now the property is pending. We've seen and experienced, especially in this market, just in our team, 27% of the time, the contract falls apart. For whatever reason, financing, inspection, documents pertaining to the property that may affect the value of the property. For whatever reason, 27% of the time, that's more than 1/4 of the time, the contract's gonna fall apart. We're gonna do our due diligence, help the buyer's agent along, so we can go ahead and remove the contingencies one by one. Does that sound fair? Right? We're gonna do showings all the way up until the property is sold firm. Right? And we're gonna entertain whatever backup offers there may be. Does that sound good? Right? So they're not like, yay, and then once it falls apart, like, oh, they know they're still, we keep them on their toes, right? So just setting that expectation up. I'm sure you go through this all the time, Jack.
Yeah.
Right. Good.
Can
All right,
I
last couple points here. You see?
I think. Is it clear? Can you hear me?
Brian, we can't hear you at all. You're all crackly.
All right.
Hello?
Yeah, I have a quick question on this part. And
Yes.
I don't know if it's the same in BC and here in Alberta. Once we have the deal is firm or is conditionally sold, and we have an option to put it on active, under contracts, or pending, one of these three. But I usually keep it going active. And but I just want your opinion, especially Simon and Pablo. I see sometimes people are saying like when this property is sold or conditionally sold, it will be written on the feature sheet, something like that. But which way is good to go? To keep the property marketing as an active, if in case that deal is not going through, or putting it on pending or under contract is better. I just want to hear what your opinion is.
I'm not sure, Nitsu, if that applies to other markets. Like we have a very specific thing there with the active and pending and under contract statuses. So maybe let's take that one offline. I'll just tell you really quickly, we chose to do under contract status just because that works for us, but we'll take that one offline and I'll call you afterwards for that one. Unless there's other people who have the same question, in which case I'd be happy to hear our philosophy on it.
Yeah, in our market, Pablo and Nitsu, we either can say accepted offer manually on the realtor remarks, or we could not say anything. I don't say anything just because I still want to honor the calls that come in. Sometimes when agents see that it's an accepted offer, they don't call. Then we don't know if there's still interest on the property. So I like to gauge it, Nitsu, if that helps.
Yes.
And then we tell the seller, we still have some calls coming in. Therefore, we have to keep showing. Or, gosh, ever since the accepted offer, nobody's called, and we didn't tell the market that there's an accepted offer. Right? Then they'll know. If the offer falls apart, we may need to do a price adjustment in order to get another offer in place. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, it does. Thank you.
Perfect. All right, number 15, last couple points. Don't burn bridges with buyers and sellers or other agents because the deal may come back apart. How many times have people called you back 2 weeks later and say, hey, is the property still available? And the deal comes together. Either the seller's more motivated or the buyer's more motivated to come up in price. But if you told them, you told them off when the negotiations didn't come together, it's never gonna come back together, right? So don't burn bridges. All right, last thought here. We can't win in every transaction that we're involved in. We can't win every transaction that we're involved in. Don't be attached to the outcome. It's not always going to come together. Again, it's still a numbers game, right? How many listings do we need to take in order to hit our goals, right? How many negotiations do we have to have with different agents to get an accepted offer? How many accepted offers till we get a firm contract? Right? We have all these numbers, so then, we can tell our seller, well, we're going to have a couple offers until we get an accepted one. Even when we have an accepted one, it's conditionally sold. We have to sell it 4 times just to get it sold firm, especially in this market. Does that sound good? Right? And if you're attached to the outcome, attached to the transaction, you're not prospecting now. Okay? All right, that's it for me, guys. Any questions, hallucinations, concerns?
John, I've got one question. How would you, and I'm sure this is on some people's minds. So you're dealing with another agent on the other side of the negotiation, and they're a total jerk. And they're bullying and they're pushing you around, and you feel like this is going nowhere because they're just, I'm trying to deal with my nice client and I'm a little bit more amiable personality, and they're just a bulldog and they're being rude. And how do you deal with that?
How do I deal with it? Okay, really get what the guy's committed to, right? And see, I know you're coming off super strong right now, and we're trying to get this contract done, right, Mr. Buyer's agent.
Yeah, I don't care what you want. I'm just telling you what my client said. That's all.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that. So here's your counter offer. I'm going to go and take it back, and then I'm going to see what the buyers will say, and I will come back to you with a counter offer. Does that sound fair?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. That's it.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was getting at. Is I've had that before, and even though I may come across as a fairly strong personality most of the time, there's times where I've dealt, especially first year or two, where, oh my God, I'm dealing with this guy and he's sold like 100 homes a year, and it's intimidating sometimes. And what I've learned now is you take, in order to take all the emotion out, all I simply do is just go, there's very little discussion. It's like, I don't get into the comps with them and trying to argue any points with them. It's just, great, thanks. I'll pass this along to the sellers. I'll let you know what they say. And that's it. And they can be like, that house it's all full of flaws, and that thing's never going to sell for this. And I'm surprised my clients even want that house. And they start getting into all the stories. That's great. I'll let them know the offer. Thank you very much. And then I present the offer and I call back. My client said $555. $555 is never going to sell for that. No. Okay, so maybe ask your clients what they think and get back to me. Fine, I will. That's what I'm going to do. Exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to.
This is
That's a typical. Go ahead, Simone.
a good chance where if you use a handset instead of earphones, you could just, when they chirp at you, you just go like this, this, and then you bring it back. Oh, they're still chirping. Okay. Oh, yeah, they're still chirping. They're still telling me value. They're still talking about the comparables, and you just don't listen to it.
It's amazing how it deflates an argument when you don't argue. And you can't have an argument with one person arguing. That's just a rant, and it sounds stupid. So when you have another agent on the other side of the line who's just going off on you and trying to tell you how that house is never going to sell, thank you, I'll present it, and just keep the emotions right out of that.
Yes, and usually I try not to get into comps too, because you're arguing who's the better agent. Who knows what comparables, who knows the market better. Atish?
Nothing, actually. I was just going to say Anna's got her hand up. I don't know if she has a question or not.
Oh, Anna?
I have a story that I just experienced yesterday that I want to share with the group. So in case it happened to you guys, it's not going to bring you into any emotion. So my listing have an accepted offer on the 23rd. and then waiting to subject remove on the 31st, this Thursday. Yesterday, one agent phoned me, and his name is, last name is Handsome, H-A-N-S, H-A-N-S. So he phoned me and then said, Anna, I email you offer on the 21st and never hear back from you. I say, oh, okay. I never hear your phone ring me. It's been more than a week. Did you never phone after you submit offer? And then he said, I email you. I say, let me look at my email. I never see any offer from you. So I double check my email, use his, and then he sent immediately double send again yesterday. So I use his email address to check and never received his offer. So he said, Anna, I submit before you have that offer. I want to be the first backup offer. I say, oh, there is Gary that already spoke to me 1 hour ago that he want to be the first backup. So now putting me into like, wow, what's going on here? So after that, I calm down and I know, okay, whoever want to be the first backup is not me designing it. You just write me the official backup offer and I submit to the seller and let the seller decide.
That's
Yeah.
right. Good
Yeah.
job, Anna.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
great.
this is ridiculous. Why I already have an accepted offer. All of a sudden you phone me on the 29th saying you submit offer on the 21st. Well, I never have this before happen to my any deal. Yeah. And they try to claim like it's my fault not receiving the offer. No, it's not. So putting me in a little bit emotion of anxiety, a little bit for a few minutes, and then after I calm down, no way, who's gonna be the backup? It's not my decision, solo decision.
Correct.
Well handled. Very well handled.
Well done, well done. All right, guys, any other questions before we go? Janae?